Welcome, everybody, to the Mind Manifesting Podcast. I'm here with my friend Raj, and we are so excited to be here today. Beautiful things are happening. Raj, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I feel like over the past maybe 60 days, let's call it December and January, I was sort of on a downtrend, you know? And I felt like I had to almost reach like rock bottom to like start to pick myself back up. And then I was like kind of trending sideways. And now I feel like a huge uptick, but not just in myself. I feel it like all around me. I feel like we're all being upshifted really up. I feel like coming through the cracks in the ground, like
Uh,
things are going at least for an upswing right now. It's almost just like the market. I always speak in like market terms, like reading a chart, like things are downtrending, trending sideways, and then up. And it almost feels like
He's a
sometimes
Taurus too.
my yeah, exactly. What's that? Oh,
I was just saying you're a Taurus, so you're always
oh yes, that's right.
always
That's
with the
right.
markets,
Yeah.
the bull runs.
Exactly. It almost feels like sometimes I find myself in a position where my mood and my overall vibration is tied to the market, and I almost have to work over time to decouple myself from using the external to dictating the internal. And it's a constant reminder that I always have to go through. um I don't notice that as much these days, but maybe it's maybe being on this uptrend in terms of my vibration levels and doing things with more allowance and love, that the market seems to be responding to, which is what we wanted to talk about today, which
That's
is
awesome.
a preponderance of abundance all around us. There's a huge amount of abundance that's being generated, especially in the last 2 years, throughout all this strife, throughout all this chaos around us. I mean, people are going from 0 to 100 in just a very short amount of time. That's never been possible before. And it's
Mhm.
almost, one can from the outset can say it seems like it's almost like a lottery. Like out of nowhere, average people are being just like shot up and catapulted up to extreme wealth. um but I think there's something deeper going on. I think you have the same suspicion, is that there's a higher power going on here, and that there's certain things that one can do internally that can upshift them to something external that they desire, right? We can sort of, like, as Abraham Hicks says, shoot out this rockets of desire, and then trust that they will be met, right? Rather than refreshing the stock screen, over and over the chart, um, rather taking a step back and just allowing whatever's going to take place, and just trusting that God's always going to look out for you in the best way and the way that you deserve.
Mm. Thank you
Yeah.
for that. Indeed. So our subject today, manifesting abundance, and we're doing this specifically as in memorial of Mr. Bob Proctor, who's definitely one of my. I never met him in real life, and I'm sad to say I kind of thought that I might meet him one day. I never did, but he's a person who really changed my life with his work and his words, and it really brought me around to this idea that like I actually could have an abundance of money. Like I had a really bad mindset around money, and Bob Proctor is one of the first people who said making money is easy. You just have to understand how to do it. And it's like a science, It's not what you were saying earlier about him before we got on camera. I think is a really important point about him, is that he's teaching these kind of like, you could almost say woo-woo mystical concepts, but he's like a very straight, very sober, traditional
Yes.
guy bringing these ideas out, which I think is something we both really appreciate about him.
Absolutely. I have not gone as deep as you have into like his work. I've only had a more superficial um look into the content of Bob Proctor through his videos. I mean, the guy was putting out almost weekly or daily content right up until the day he passed on. I mean, I don't know how old he was, but I know he was pretty aged, which was just incredible. He looked great, and he always had such an
Yeah.
upbeat spirit. He never like lost a beat. He was sharp as anything. Really, really smart. And he is this very traditional guy, straight edge. That's explaining. So I found him later on. I got into the woo side of things first, learning about these concepts of abundance, learning from Mind Valley, Lisa Nichols and various other people from the current world and older world speaking about these concepts from all spectrums of life. But seeing Bob had a different effect because he was such a rational guy, like even Wall Street types can like, get behind his message of leadership and taking appropriate aligned action and getting in control of your mind and feelings. Um, yeah, so it's he's looking down on us, he's here right now. His messages are still extremely relevant. They're evergreen. They're always going to be relevant, because what he speaks about is the way it potentially works. I think he's right.
Mhm. I think he's right. He's on to something. So one of my favorite things about his message is he would always talk about your paradigm being like your fundamental understanding of how the world works. And so I like to think about what's going on right now is a lot of people are shifting from this paradigm of scarcity to a paradigm of abundance. And that's like our true nature is to live in a paradigm of abundance, because that's how nature is. Nature is abundant. And so that's
Yeah,
also
God wants
our
us to
nature.
be abundant. Yes.
Yes, to go forth and prosper.
Yes.
And yeah, so I want to get into that a little bit, some specific things that Bob used to talk about. And I actually love this. I like this stuff so much that I put it into my own book, as you guys know at this point, the Love Attraction Manual. Um, and I want to just share them with you. So they're what he refers to as the 11 forgotten laws. So the law of attraction being kind of like the most popular one, and there's these other ones that get into more specifics. So number one is the law of thinking. Whatever your dominant thoughts are, you become. Number two, the law of supply. There's an infinite supply that almost magically appears if you ask in the proper way. Source energy is infinitely abundant. You are source energy, so your nature is abundance.
Wow.
Number three. Yeah, we can talk on
How
these a
many?
little
Yeah,
bit. So
I want
part
to
of
I want to
that,
get a little bit detail there. That was really profound. I don't want to brush over that. That's all we need to know. And we know this internally, but I tend to forget almost immediately. Um, and this is a
yeah,
constant back and forth. Of course, over time that back and forth gets less, but at least, just hearing that from you just now was like, lights are going off still. I can read that thing every day and still it would lights would go off, I feel like. Because I think we
yeah,
touched on this before, is that we're sort of designed to forget.
yeah. That's what I was about to say. I think there's this game of like constantly forgetting and then reminding each other, and we're all here to remind each other. Like, hey, did you know that you're source energy and the nature of
Yes,
source energy is abundance?
right, exactly. Wow.
Yeah, so that last couple sentences, source energy is infinitely abundant. You are source energy, so your nature is abundance.
Wow. Yeah, this really ties in, like, if we are if the outside is just a delayed mirror of the inside, and your inside is infinite abundance, which it truly is, we've just self-imposed some self-limiting beliefs on that from our parents and environment. Um, but if we can unlearn all of that and get into our true nature, which is source energy, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, the divine is what I like to call it. And that you can re-experience that and re-understand and rediscover that internal abundance, which then gets reflected out through the external. And now from the outside, people will say, well, Raj, you just got rich from crypto, or, you did X, Y, and Z in your business, or you took such and such action, right? But from the inside, I know really well that it was none of that stuff, that it was purely changing my internal state and getting to what I wanted on the outside. And it was as simple as that. 1 year of learning. I learned this concept in March 2020. I just discovered this thing called synchronicity. And that was the same month I
Wow.
also later
March
did DMT
2020.
for the first time. But I discovered what synchronicity was. And I started with this guy, Noah Lampert. You ever heard of him? He has this great podcast called Synchronicity on podcast channels. I'm a huge fan of him. He is really woo-woo. But he gave me a challenge. He's like, don't take my word for it. Try it. Just try it. And I said,
Yeah.
okay. I said, all right. He doesn't seem like the type of guy that would go out of his way to make that up. It's such a weird thing to make up. But that was the first exposure I had. And I tried it. Started with things small and worked my way up as he instructed. And within a year, I was a millionaire. That's pretty weird. And
That's
what
amazing.
happens
Yeah.
is basically my understanding of it is that God takes the path of least resistance to give you what you deserve, right? So this can be negative or positive. It depends on what's needed for you to learn a particular lesson, right? So I've had experiences where I've made millions, lost it all, made, lost it all. And I've been through that cycle like 2 or 3 times. And obviously there is something going on there, some emotional blockage that is something I need to address, so it's a never ending path of learning.
Mhm. Yeah, adjusting that paradigm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and something you said reminded me also, there's this idea that making those internal changes is not taking action, but I would say that was an action that you took.
Yeah.
That
Try
that led
doing
to,
nothing.
yeah, just try it.
That's what Abraham Hicks, I just watched funny you mentioned that. I watched a video from Abraham Hicks just last night as I was getting a 3 a.m. snack. I had I have some Abraham Hicks going in the background, and she said, just try doing nothing. If your friends ask you what you're doing, say you're doing nothing. And they're like, what do you mean you're doing nothing? Like, I'm just doing nothing, and just stop taking action and start start changing your vibration rather than taking action. You see, and you could change your vibration just by sitting still, stillness, presence, yeah.
Breathing.
Yeah, breathing. And that is all we really need. And again, it's a lesson that I keep learning. But it's fun.
Yeah, there's
I'm having
something.
fun. That's what it's about. It's about having fun, right? Like, I don't get worried when I lose millions. Like, I have fun with it. I just know, it's going to come back. It's like air. I don't worry about running out of air. I don't have a scarcity mindset about air. Money's like air. Money's just energy. Money is breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe
It's all
out.
around you.
It's it is unlimited. You can
It's everywhere.
be
Yeah.
billionaire. If you want to be billionaire, you can be billionaire. There's nothing, it's all about your internal resistance. If you say I want to be a billionaire and you have a speck of skepticism or doubt, which most people do, it's a big number. Uh,
Big
you're not going to
number.
get it, right? Maybe start with something smaller, but it's the same path. It's all the same way. It's all through, if you reach a vibratory state, that of a billionaire, then it'll happen in divine timing.
Yeah, exactly. Divine order, divine timing. I like the idea of going just kind of a little bit beyond your comfort zone every time, It's like you said, like if you ask for $1 billion from nothing, it can be really hard to believe. But if you ask for like, I just want to have $10,000 in my bank account. Okay, I got it. I just want to have $100,000 in my bank account or my investments. Okay, I got it. I just want to have $500,000, up and up
It
and
is
up and up like
amazing.
that.
It is no bullshit. It is amazing for those that are listening how well that works. I started with
Yeah.
$1 million and I was like, huh, I just got it. And then I was like, oh, okay. How about 5 million? Oh, I just got it. Then I'm like, okay, what about 10? And then I was on the way to 10. And that's when I lost it. Because apparently I must have not have been at that level yet. Right. I was jumping too fast, Raj. Uh, stop being greedy, I'm gonna get what I deserve here. So, when I started thinking in terms of $20 million is when I started to lose it. So
Mm.
now I'm starting again at mill and I'm gonna work my way right back to 5 and then see what happens. And then, start taking daily actions in terms of vibration in order to get there. I'm confident I'll do it. I'm not there right now. There's lots of improvements I can do, but I know I'm on the right path and I'm learning in due time, right? My timeline was far too short. With presence and patience and just trusting that it's going to happen. That's all I really need. And I find that the less I look at my portfolio, the less I interact with it, the more it goes up. There's no coincidence there.
Nice. Yeah, and you're young. I mean, you've got a high speed start on this thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was no inkling that this was going to happen in March of 2020. I had like 1 or 2 Bitcoin, but it was nothing like, I wasn't even thinking about it. Like crypto wasn't even on my radar. But basically
Wow.
what happened was I started doing these vibratory practices, affirmations, and, taking aligned action. Like, if I go to Starbucks, I don't like nickel and dime myself, like, oh, because if I just trust, basically what I did was, in a nutshell, I just walked around as if I was a millionaire already and talked as if I was a millionaire already and felt and dreamed as if I was. And that's it. That's all I did. It was as simple as that. And I hope I can share that with other people that are listening because it was as simple as that. And then it just happened through the path of least resistance. It didn't matter how it happened. If you focus on how it's going to happen, you'll meet massive resistance. That is the biggest mistake here, is trying to imagine how. Just put yourself as if the desire has already been met and feel and think and act from that hilltop. And that's it. No worry about how it will happen. You're not at a state of consciousness where you would be able to figure out how it's going to happen. Otherwise, you would have already been millionaire if you knew how it was going to happen, right? So don't even bother yourself with trying to figure out how you're going to get their first million or 10 million. You just trust that it's yours. And God, source, your environment figures out, carves a path out. Opportunities start coming. Phone calls start coming. Messages start coming from all types of people that you would have never imagined. And that's what happened to me. Still, almost on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, I make a connection with somebody that is going to change my life. And it's just, I'm a magnet for that,
Yeah,
and
you are.
That is, it's pretty amazing.
That's how I found you.
Yeah, that's how I find everybody, man. It's like, it's really cool. That's how all of us, even those that are listening, that's how you find everybody. You're always magnetized to the vibration that you're at. And this goes both ways. I've lost all my friends in an instant, right? Friends that were 2 decades old overnight, because the vibratory state, our paths were not in alignment. So God, being what God does, always taking the path of least resistance, found some scenario that I could have never imagined to make that happen, to make that split happen. It's just a split instant. That's how well God looks out for me. Didn't have to make it too painful, right? And then immediately, weeks later, I found all types of new people, friends, all types of connections that have changed my life infinitely better. So when I am going through negative things in the moment, I always trust that, hey, this is for the best, because all the other negative things that have happened to me in the past, in hindsight, it was actually for the best. So why would this time be any different?
Wow. Yeah, that's quite an intense experience of like kind of losing all those old friends like that, and then having all these new ones come in.
It was pretty traumatic, as you can imagine. Like, I'm not bullshitting.
Totally.
It happened overnight, through a way that I could have never imagined, but that's what had to be done. And man, am I thankful for that. That is huge.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because something that's really important about this stuff is that like the vibration that the people around you are holding is really pretty intensely affecting you, unless you have a strong protection around you. Like some people are pretty good at protecting their energy. Most people just let it right in. So if you're surrounded by people with a negative scarcity mindset, you're going to get pulled into that really regularly.
Yeah.
That's just how it works.
And it goes both ways. Like, see, my family has this scarcity mindset. It is what it is. It's just what they were raised on. Everybody's doing their best, right? Everybody's acting from what they've learned.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing wrong with that.
Many of our parents and grandparents are
exactly.
All raised with this.
So I had to, basically unlearn years and decades of programming, because that was my immediate surroundings. Now it goes both ways. From my friends' perspective, and I love them very dearly, their vibration, I was antagonistic to them. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? To them, I was a nuisance, and I was holding them back from their path. Doesn't mean one path is better than the other, right? So I was not in alignment with them, right? If anything, I was annoying, right? So
yeah, totally.
They also got where they deserve, and probably for the best. I'm sure they're all doing extremely well without me. And that's just the magic of it all, and it's great. I love it. I love that.
Amazing. Yeah. So back to Bob Proctor. Hey, you changed your paradigm. Your way of seeing the world has transformed, and the world around you has transformed as well. So let's go through the rest of these laws and just keep bringing it back to Mr. Bob, because this is I really want to honor his spirit. He's somebody I appreciate so much. So number 3, the law of attraction, also known as the law of momentum. So we're born to expect good things, and when we expect them, they will happen. The same is true in reverse. So that kind of just touches on the point we were just making. The next one is the law of receiving. Give freely without worrying if you will have enough for yourself. When we give from a place of love and abundance, we will always receive more and better than we can even imagine.
Okay, hold on. Let's pause there. I want to touch on the previous point you said as well. Can you remind me again what the point was before the last sentence you said? That was pretty deep.
So the law, we were born to expect good things, and when we expect them, they will happen.
And vice versa.
The same is true in reverse.
Yes, I'm going to touch on that. because there's so many out there that think they are being skeptical when instead they're being cynical, right? And there's a big difference.
Mhm.
This is something I've been learning from one of my mentors, is that skepticism comes from a place of logic and reason, and cynicism comes from some sort of internal belief. That's just your opinion,
Yeah.
and people don't realize how much source is trying to give them, and they're just shooing it away because they have this belief. Literally, all day long, God's
Yeah.
trying to give you riches. God's trying to give you prosperity. Nature's trying to give you abundance at all moments. But the only reason you may be in lack of that is because your internal environment is shooing it away. And God's okay with that. God's like, that's just the learning process. There's no big deal. You're not offending anybody. You're not offending God by shooing away your prosperity, because you choose the path that you want to live in. If you want to be cynic, and if you want to be negative, and if you expect the worst, you ever meet people that are always unlucky and always meet people that are always lucky? There's a reason for
Oh
that.
yeah,
There's a reason
for
for that.
sure.
Yeah, yeah. I always think back at, you ever watch Hey Arnold? Eugene always putting himself in unlucky situations. It's the same thing. If you expect bad things to happen, that is your internal state, and God's always going to give you what you think. And this is what I've been trying to get my folks to understand. It's like,
Mhm.
if you think you're not gonna be millionaire, or if you think that, I always think in terms of money because their scarcity is very economically tied. But if you think such and such is not going to happen, or you always look at the negatives, right? Like, if I present an idea to that kind of person, immediately their mind goes to all the ways it can go wrong. They are going to go wrong that way if you think they will. That is 100% sure. And I'm 100% sure they'll go right if you believe they'll go right. I forgot who it was. It was some like cliche thing, probably like Ben Franklin or something, who said that if you think you can do it, you can, and if you think you can't do it, you can't, or something like that. Something like that. I'm butchering it, but it's the same concept.
Yeah, if you believe you can, or if you believe you can't, you're right.
You're right. Yes, that's what it was. Yeah, I was one of those guys.
One of those old guys. Yep.
Yep. And then the second thing you said after that, which was, remind me what that was again.
So it's law of receiving. Give freely without worrying if you'll have enough for yourself.
There you go, man. There's countless stories of people out there that give their last dollar away, and then all of a sudden they're like mega successful or mega prosperous.
Mhm.
Whatever you give away, you get 10x back, always, always.
Mm.
And that is a
Yeah, and
principle that I'm still
there's
learning.
just there's such an important spiritual principle of like just understanding that you always have more to give, and the more you have to give, the more will come back to you.
Exactly.
And this
Any
works
resistance you have to giving away is a reflection of you not believing you have enough. And
scarcity
that's a
consciousness.
scarcity mindset.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I fell in this trap. I used to be way greedier than I am now. Just a few months ago, I'm talking like when I'm thinking in terms of $20 million, which was at the time pretty feasible. And of course, I lost it. But then, just being greedy is a type of being scarcity. Is a type of being scarce. That's what I just learned. I was like, wait a minute, holy shit! The act of being greedy is an assumption that I don't have enough. That was the
Mhm.
light bulb going off.
Yeah. Yeah. You can get rich from a scarcity mindset for
Yes.
sure.
And always be afraid of losing it. Yeah,
And
definitely.
you'll
That's probably
always
what
be
happened.
afraid
That's
of
probably why I
losing.
lost it a few times. Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
Definitely. This time I won't. But that's probably why I did.
Yeah, I'm super fortunate because I married a woman who is a very abundance minded magical manifester. So if I ever slip into some kind of scarcity mindset, she'll be like, "Hey, you know better than that. Cut it out."
Wow, that's beautiful.
Super fortunate. I manifested her, and she manifested me. And it was one of the most magical things that has happened to us. And so, Raj, I actually haven't told you this, but it feels like the right moment to tell you, and tell everybody who's listening as well, is that my wife and I have another child on the way.
Oh my gosh. That is amazing, man. Congratulations. Oh, wow.
Thank you.
That's oh my God. I'm speechless, man. Uh and they're just like, oh my God, it's gonna be so awesome. Your little one's gonna have another sibling, just like 3 years apart, which is like that's like the perfect gap. So good timing, man. That's amazing. And you just moved to this new location, this your new home, and ready to start a bigger
Magical
family.
place. We're doing it, yeah.
Wow. Wow. Congratulations to both of you guys.
Thank you. We're feeling super blessed right now. I mean, we haven't even got into this part, and I think we're gonna actually need to do a whole new episode getting into the move that we made, because we've created such a magical place. I mean, we didn't create it, obviously God created it, but we find ourselves as the stewards of this absolutely pristine, beautiful land with clean, fresh water flowing through the property from multiple places, big open meadow, and just abundant forests. It's 11.5 acres. It's in a pepperwood grove and a bunch of big old coniferous trees, Douglas firs and other pine trees, and a year-round creek flowing down one side of the property, and then a mountain spring coming out from the top. And I want to tell you just about the way that I found that spring the other day, because what I've been doing after the ladies go to sleep is basically my data time. It's my prayer time, and I go out onto the land with my headlamp, and I've just been like surveying the land, like going out off the path into the forest, like visiting all the trees and the nooks and the crannies and
You go
everything.
barefoot?
No, it's too cold for that right now.
Yeah. Just wondering.
Maybe later on in the summertime, perhaps. But yeah, so I've been doing that, just headlamp hiking, clearing out trails. I'm making a whole big ring trail around the property. So I've just been like clearing and pruning and making space in this forest. And I was singing this song. I was drinking. I did a bunch of work, and I was drinking from the spring. And I was singing this song that goes, "Thank you, sweet Mother Earth. Thank you. Thank you, sweet Father God. Thank you." And I was just singing that in the loop while I was drinking this spring water. And then I kept singing it, and I was like, oh, I'm going to go up a little further, follow this creek and where it goes. And I just climbed over a couple like big old logs, and right on the edge of our property is all national forest bordering the property. And right on the edge, I climbed over this big old down stump that was like covered in moss and ferns and stuff. And right on the other side of that, I found this just like magical little waterfall, just
No
like,
way.
I don't know, like
You didn't
5
know
or
that was
6
there?
feet tall, like thin waterfall. We had never found it before, just
Whoa.
flowing down into this beautiful pool. I found it. Yeah, so I found it at night with my headlamp after I was singing that prayer song just in a loop. I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing.
See, I
So
like to believe
amazing.
that waterfall was never there until you sung that song.
Yeah, I
Seriously, that's how
manifested
I
it.
live my life. Yeah. Wow.
Certainly brought it into my experience.
Yeah. Wow.
Super
Wow.
magical. So
That's
yeah,
incredible.
there's lots more to tell about the move that we just made, but that's kind of a little preview of it. I'm going to continue on with these. Shout out to Bob Proctor. The law
Yes,
of
he's
increase.
listening.
Yeah, so the law of increase, also known as the law of praise or appreciation. What are you praising about or complaining about? It will increase. Another thing I like to say is that worrying is like praying for something you don't want.
I was just gonna say that.
I got the psychic message.
Well, I think you taught me that. So
Yeah, we talked about that
yeah,
before. That's one of my favorite sayings.
yeah, yeah.
So then following that is the law of compensation. We get back what we put out in every way. We must be it before we see it.
Yes. When he says you must be it, he means your internal state must be exist as if your desire has been met. If your desire has been met, your deepest desires, how would you feel right now? How would you think? How would you act? And do that. Just practice doing that. And that's it.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Amazing. It's so crazy how well that
It's
works.
like a cheat code. It's literally a cheat code for how
Yeah.
reality works, how the quantum field works. It's all quantum based. Like you finding that waterfall. It's like,
Yeah.
Schrodinger's cat. It didn't have to be there. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It was in a state of being there and not being there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
that's interesting. And that's how life works. That's how I meet people. You run into them on the street and they change your life. That's how that happens.
Mhm.
Or I open a letter that I didn't have to get to me and it has some really bad news on it. And I'm like, shit, I didn't have to get this letter, but I did. And it's like not great news. And it's it's obviously here to teach me something that I needed to learn, but it goes both ways.
Vibrations, energy, frequency, vibration.
Yep. Like when I'm
Yeah.
worrying about and complaining about tax, I'll get a bad IRS letter. No bueno. But I'm
Gotta
getting
be
in tune
careful
with
about
that.
that.
I think I got that soft now. But that I've had experiences like,
No, I just mean thinking about the taxes too much.
yeah, that itself, just forget about it, and it is a lesson I'm continually learning. I'm not all the way there yet, but definitely when I do
Yeah.
not worry about it, it solves itself almost always from multiple angles. And it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, that's crazy. In the past week, I've had 4 conversations with 4 different people giving me 4 different solutions to solve my tax issue. Like, whoa, obviously that's the universe trying to tell me something.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, we are electromagnetic beings.
Yes.
So
Especially the heart.
especially from the heart. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you had told me a couple of years ago that I was going to be a landowner at this point in my life, like, I mean, that happened crazy fast. Like it was really remarkable how quickly I went from being like, literally having like frequently less than $2,000 or $1,000 in my bank account and just living paycheck to paycheck, like barely paying rent. And honestly, I was pretty happy then. Even like I had figured out a way to like be happy in that state, and I was like, no, I'm just gonna be poor, and I'll be fine with it, and everything will be fine. And every time when I get together with a lady, I'm like, oh shit, I can't just be poor. Like I need to manifest some money.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's true, our society does run on money. That it is a part of life that a lot of people find reasons in to not follow their dreams, their passions, their purpose. They're like, well, I still got to pay the bills. They get stuck there. And it is something that can be solved for.
Yeah. So Bob Proctor, one of his big things, he always talked about multiple streams of income. It's pretty much the only reliable way to wealth, unless you're working a very high paying job. And even then, you might as well set up multiple streams of income, because if you have extra capital, your money can be working for you to create more money.
This is where Bob
So
gets into more traditional finance knowledge,
yeah,
and what makes him very attractive to, more traditional folks is that he does mix in actual practical advice with practical spiritual advice. Still actionable both ways, very actionable stuff. But this is a great concept, not always necessary, right? I found abundance through one stream. But now with that one stream, I'm setting up multiple streams, right? So from an economic standpoint, and I'm pretty heavy into, business mindset, entrepreneurship mindset, it's absolutely a reality. Is better to have multiple streams. So on average over time, it will amount for more. And the goal is not to have more, is so you can give more, right? Like the other day, like somebody asked, like, why the hell do you want, $15 million? And it was like, well, I certainly won't be able to, build a school or start some charity or donate $1 million without having $1 million myself, right?
yeah, of course. You can do more good with
Yeah, if
more
my cup
money.
overfloweth, I can give it to others. Yeah.
Mhm. Yes, indeed. So multiple streams of income. Yeah, so in the next one, let's see. We talked about the law of compensation. The next one is the law of non-resistance. So when we experience problems, we do not put extra suffering or negative emotion into them. Accept reality and move forward with your vision in mind.
Very profound.
Super important, because you can get into, like, if you start believing this stuff, start thinking you're manifesting your own reality, then you start blaming yourself for any bad thing that happens in your life, and it just spirals
that's me.
downwards.
That's me. When
Gotta be
I
careful
lost
with that.
my wealth that I suddenly gained, when I lost it, I was like, damn, I'm a manifester. I'm powerful as hell. And obviously, I manifested losing all of it. And I got into a deep state of depression. And my situation got worse, and it was exactly due to this principle where when something was not going my way, at least locally in that mindset, I was feeding it more energy. I was feeding it way more. And that was making that beast worse. When a recent lesson that I learned that I've been talking about and posting about is this concept of allowance. A concept I'm familiar with from the psychedelic sessions, but using it in everyday life of just pure allowance. If the portfolio is crashing down, just allow. If your parents are fighting, just don't be in reactive mode. Just allow. And that's it. And then I found that in the allowance of negative emotions, negative thoughts, rather than trying to bury them deep, just allowing, they fade on their own. Any negative situation I'm in, money-wise, business-wise, anything, relationship-wise, by just allowing it to just do what it wants to do what it has to do, and just realigning myself away from it. And, trying to transmuting myself into a state of joy and gratitude, even during those dark times, is what turns it around. And if one is having trouble, this is what Abraham Hicks teaches, if someone's having trouble realigning themselves into joy, abundance, and gratitude, start broadly, don't get so specific.
Yeah. There's always something to appreciate.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
That's the law of non-resistance. Next one, these ones really go together very importantly, is the law of forgiveness. So we must forgive ourselves and those around us. The heaviest weight that we can hold is a grudge or a lack of acceptance for something that has happened in the past, some way that somebody treated us or that we treated somebody. That's the heaviest weight we can hold. So forgiving anything from the past that is still holding power over us is one of the most important and quickest ways to raise our vibration and start attracting more abundance, more prosperity, more happiness and peace. Because really, I mean, for me, what I want the abundance for peace, and freedom. It's like those are the states that I want to experience. I want to have peace of mind and in my heart. And this is the same for my wife and family. And I want to really be free. Like I want to be free to be doing what I want, to be creating my vision, helping those people around me. All the time. Like that's how I'm creating my life so that I can live in that state of freedom. And there was definitely some forgiveness that needed to happen. a lot about forgiving myself, and I'm still working on that. There's more left to do. It always, it's a never-ending process.
Never-ending learning cycle. Lots more to learn. I can relate 100% with forgiving myself. I actually have a little bit more ease with forgiving others than forgiving myself.
Mhm.
Working through forgiving my parents was a bit of a journey, which I think I've, kind of got pat down now. Now working on forgiving myself, I'm in the middle of that. Definitely making good headway.
It's a big one.
Yeah,
I think it's easier
even right now. You were saying, go ahead.
It's easier. Yeah, I think it's easier to forgive others for most people because you're spending your whole life with yourself.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot more there.
Even
a
just
lot
now,
more experiences.
like this past month, no, 2 months, 60 days even, I have like pretty much hit rock bottom in terms of like my daily habits and more broadly, a lack of self-love pretty much is what I'm dealing with right now. And I have just been learning to just allow, right? So there's days where I'm just like in bed all day. I haven't like done anything. And rather than beating myself up over it, I have learned to just sort of, this is what it is. If I'm sleeping at 5 a.m., waking up at 5 p.m., it is what it is, it's fine. And and then when I say, okay, starting tomorrow, I'm going to, fix my schedule, fix my habits. And rather than making faster headway than I would have wanted, instead I'm making really small percentage points of improvement day to day. Nowhere near what I expected the rate of improvement would be, but I'm just allowing, like, okay, this process is going to go slow, so be it. It's going slow, still I'm okay with that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would be careful with that word rock bottom too, because you don't want to manifest that.
yes, exactly. No, I'm nowhere near that.
I said that and I'll shout out my friend Naeem, because one time I was having a rough time. Some stuff was just going wrong in my life, and I was really sad about it. I was like, oh, I feel like I'm at rock bottom right now. And he was like, no, dude, you don't know. You're not even
Yeah, I'm
anywhere
not even
close.
close.
Like
Yeah, I bet
you can go
purely
a
from a
lot lower.
self-love standpoint, just like a self-care standpoint,
Gotcha,
like,
yeah.
but still, you're right. There still could be infinitely worse.
There's a lot of layers. You can go
There's a
really,
lot of layers, dude.
really low.
I am so blessed right now. You're right. I shouldn't even have that word in my mindset. Yeah, cool, man. Thanks.
Of course. So the next one, let's do it. Number 9 is the law of sacrifice, which means that we must give something up in order to gain something else. Our choices become reality. This reminds me of what you were talking about with your old friends and your new friends earlier.
Definitely.
And even like your job, like your old job and what you've created now. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Definitely. Let me hear that again and I'll hit it home. Let me hear that.
Yeah, so we must give something up in order to gain something else. Our
Yeah,
choices become reality.
definitely. This is something that this is my biggest struggle right now, is making choices that are rooted in discomfort in the moment, but are the best for me. Instead, I find, maybe it's a tourist thing. I don't know. You're bigger into that than I am. That I am relishing in uh, comfort. You know, my lifestyle right now is that of uh, imagine laying in bed and having like somebody feeding you grapes and having somebody like fanning you, like, right? Like, like that's literally what I'm doing for the past 60 days. And I have exhausted that, you know? I went all the way, hedonistic, like all the way, like all the pleasures at once, you know? And that I had to just like get that out of my system, I felt like. And eventually I didn't think I would get tired of it, but I did. Right.
Oh
So
yeah.
now I'm like sick of it. So now I had to get sick of it. I guess this is what I meant when I said bottom. I had to get sick of it to where I can now transform into something else. And part of that transformation, what I'm going through, is making choices that don't reward me locally, that, like, waking up early, exercising, doing things in discomfort that I know aligns with my goal, right? Like, it's an
Mm.
identity shift that I have to do. If I want what I want, that kind of individual doesn't do what I'm doing now, right? So I having to reshift and transmute my identity, my personality, my feelings, my thoughts into who I want to be, my higher self, who I'm in constant communication with, um, and getting more to that state. Now, you mentioned another choice was like, relishing in the stability of my job. I was a physiotherapist. I worked in a clinic. I had patients. I had a secretary. I had, assistant. It was great, and it was it wasn't too stressful, right? The economics weren't good. They were not incentivized the right way because healthcare is a scam, the system. But, I loved what I did and it was cool, um, and rewarding spiritually, not economically though. But immediately after I kind of let that go, did the uncomfortable thing, which was just quitting. And within 2 months, I've already surpassed more than a year's income that I would have made working 12 months as a therapist. Um, that's weird.
Wow,
That's cool.
that's
Uh,
awesome.
and I'm like, and that's while I'm like laying in bed just hanging out all day, you know?
Amazing.
So imagine if I actually tried. So that's pretty, so that is a very,
So crazy.
it definitely also gives an extra layer of assurance that God's always looking out, that there's always a safety net. There's always a better way, that there's always more, and you're only going to get more if you're satisfied with what you have now.
Gratitude. Yeah, so another Bob Proctor point on that is he said, I turned my yearly income into my monthly income.
Yeah. Yeah,
You can do that. You can do that too.
definitely. Yeah, it's happened. There was a time I
I'm pretty
made
close to doing that. I'm
there's
getting
like
close.
there's inconceivable amounts. There was a time I made $1 million in 24 hours, 2 days in a row. Like, that's
Whoa,
weird, dude. That's not normal.
that's crazy.
That's inconceivable to me a year ago, or even
Mhm.
like 6 months ago, but it's just because of my self-limiting beliefs. If I believe that's a reality, that I'm now in this reality, I'm in this timeline where that's the thing that happens to me, and I just lean into that a little bit, yeah, it's gonna happen again, dude, for sure, for sure.
Awesome.
And it's not, again, that's not the end goal. The end goal is still what I do with that wealth, right? It's just energy, right? So
Yeah,
I'm
totally.
attracting all this energy. it can't just sit in here and build up. It has to like flow out, and I got some pretty cool stuff up the sleeve that is going to happen.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to see where you go with it. And we're excited to have you out at the magic farm out here.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
So let me do these last two. I'm running a little short on time here, so we're
We'll
gonna
do the
have
last
to
two.
wrap it
We'll
up.
end it on that.
Yeah, and a final prayer for Bob Proctor,
Yeah.
and that'll do it. So number 10 is the law of obedience. Surrendering to the universe is a beautiful feeling. Live your life in tune with your inner guide. So I feel like you've touched on this one quite a few times. I'll just say that more and more recently, I've just been like very clearly able to hear what my intuition is telling me. I'll just follow it. Like for instance, the other day I got a truck. I was like, I need a big old work truck for the farm. And I was just like, I'm gonna go out and get a truck, and then just literally like ran into it basically, like not even trying too hard. I just found one for sale on the side of the road, and
That's so
called
cool.
dude, took it for a test drive. The next week came back and bought it because I was by myself in Oregon with my other car, so I couldn't just buy it and take it home. But anyways, manifested a truck, and I did it by following my intuition.
Amazing.
Super exciting. It's really fun having a truck because it's the perfect tool up here. The other day we were all down by the river, just like backed up the truck down on the river, filled up, didn't fill up, but like really put like I don't know, a ton of rocks or so in the back of the truck, and then drove them back up the hill and put them on the garden. And then we made just like this beautiful stone circle pattern, circular or concentric circle beds where we're going to plant our garden.
Whoa.
So yeah, more on that as well. But I'm starting this new art project, which is the land here, and shaping and tending to the land in a way that it's
That is
like
so
an
beautiful.
experiential art project that people can come and visit and yeah, just soak up the beauty of this place.
Wow, new goals, man. That's amazing. I've never thought
So
about
then
it. That's amazing.
law of success is the final one, which we talked about this earlier. Whether you believe that you can or you believe that you can't, you're right. So finally, I just wanted to say that a little prayer for Bob Proctor. May his soul rest in peace. May the transition go easily for him, for all of his family members, his loved ones, and the hundreds of thousands, probably millions of people around the world who love him. May his words go forth to bless, heal, and inspire the hearts of men and women for generations to come. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
All right, Raj. Thank you. It's good to see you today.
Yeah, likewise. I had a lot of fun.
Thanks everybody for listening. May your days be filled with love and abundance. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.